Hi everyone, this is video number 3 in changing our relationship with nature. And in this video I'd like to talk about having a relationship with nature, or having a relationship with anything, and what that means, and what the benefits of having a relationship with this world that we live in really is. There's a quote from Thoreau, really one of my heroes, but Henry David Thoreau, which goes something like, all men, we could say all people, live lives of quiet desperation. And I believe that that was true when Thoreau was alive. I think it's probably even more true today, that underneath our very busy lives there's a sense of anxiety, a sense of quiet desperation. We're not connected, we don't belong here, we're dispossessed of our own sort of roots, our own heritage. And that our relationship with nature is very key to restoring those roots, to restoring our sense of belonging. Really, the sense of belonging, the sense of connection, is simply just the opposite of the sense of isolation that perhaps many of us feel. I know I feel that at times. So being in relationship, a deep relationship with the world, with the earth, the nature around us, is an antidote to this underlying condition, which I believe underlies our modern society, our modern culture, in the West at the very least, and it's probably becoming equally true as other countries get more and more westernized. It's probably becoming equally true there too. So the idea, the sense of being in a relationship, the sense of being connected to, the sense of belonging on this planet is, I think, very key to our lives. And so these videos are about how we go about recovering that connection. And essentially it's recovering the connection to a core part of who we are, because after all, we're natural. We're a part of nature, even though we might not feel like it. We're created by nature. We are of nature. We are nature, ultimately. So going for a hike in nature, what does it mean to be in relationship with nature? What does the word even relationship mean? And the word relationship is itself kind of misleading, because it's a noun. It sounds like there is a thing, a relationship. But in actual fact, you can't put your finger on anything that you would call a relationship. There's nothing concrete actually there. So the word itself is actually misleading and ought to be used merely as a verb. There ought to be simply relating. It's a constant ongoing process of exchange. And that kind of exchange can go on many levels. We know scientifically that with nature there's exchanges of all kinds going on all the time. On the chemical level, for example, or on the electromagnetic field level, we are definitely not physically separate from our environment. The trees are respiring oxygen, and we're breathing it in. We're breathing out carbon dioxide, and the trees are using that in photosynthesis. That's just one obvious level of connection, and the connections exist on many levels. So but that's physical, and as in that physical example, though, when we have a relationship, say we have a relationship with another person, we generally expect that it's two-way, that it involves a two-way kind of exchange. It's dialogical. And in human relations, we rely a lot on words, on language, to have relationships. But I would like to suggest that relationship is deeper and more mysterious than what can be conveyed between one another with language. And that really relationship happens on the level of being, on the level of presence. One can be with someone and be silent, yet still feel in relationship with them. And that brings me to this important point, which is about the key difference between knowing about. So when we think about having a relationship with someone, obviously we know things about that person. And how key is it that we know those things about a person? I mean, if could a relationship be summed up by the number of facts you know about another person? I know where you're from, I know what job you do and everything. Well, clearly, I think we think that a relationship couldn't be summed up by the sum of the facts. That a relationship actually lies beyond the mere facts that you know about someone and they know about you. Those facts are kind of a detail, a kind of perhaps even a doorway, a handshake, but the relationship is something other than that, and something other than just the facts. And the same goes for our relationship with nature. So out in nature, I can be looking at a tree or a shrub or an animal, and I can know facts about that thing, that object. And how I can know things about how it's working and how photosynthesis is working and what might be happening and how the thing works. But if I would stop there, if I think about nature that way, then I'm not truly in relationship with it. I'm actually an observer, simply holding facts about an object. I'm not in relationship. There's no two-way component then about that interaction anymore. So again, the relationship exists on another level. It exists on the level of being or presence. So while knowing facts about things in nature may serve as a kind of handshake, an introduction to those things, the actual relationship occurs on a level of beingness, the level of presence, a sense of connection. Hard to describe, hard to put our fingers on, but that's true with everything that we are relating with, in the process with. So one, in a way, in nature and with others, needs to have a quiet mind. There needs to be an element of silence in the relationship. And that there could be a sense of connection, a sense of relatedness. And for me, this really comes down to the word love. There could be a sense of love. And it's through love that the connection and the relationship really happens. There's no relatedness, I don't think, not really, without love. So love is the bridge to relationship with anything. And so love implies a kind of openness to the experience of being with that thing, being with that being. And one is surrounded by beings. We've had other videos in this series that have talked about how currently we can't really argue against the fact that, or against the idea that consciousness is everywhere. And so really we're surrounded by beingness, we're in beingness, we're steeped in beingness. And that we need to be operating on that level to have a relationship with nature. So it's really a matter of silence, listening, and in that silence, feeling, and not assuming that our feelings are merely our own, that our feelings actually could belong to a larger situation, could regard to the other beingness that's around us. And so that feeling is happening inside of us as a result of connection. And to me, that's how I would define connection, is that feeling is happening in relation to other beings. Feeling is happening, I'm aware that feeling in relation to other beingness that's around me. I start to belong, I start to experience being part of a larger entity, a larger intelligence, a larger field of being. And this is part of what we're shooting for in this series about relating. And so I'm going to continue with many different aspects of this. There are many ways to come at it, and many thoughts we have to untie, many knots we have to untie in our mind in order to allow ourselves to have that experience I just described. But and so we will work on each of these knots from various different angles. And in this particular one, we're talking about the knot of really thinking we know what relationship is, or what relating is, and really finding that we need to go to a different part of ourselves in order to relate, in order to actually be a part of relating. And relating never stops. The dialogue never stops. It's always ongoing. We're always in dialogue with the world around us. Thank you.